Hey guys, it's Heather from Here She Grows, and I brought you into my bedroom because the problem that I'm having is in my bedroom, and it's a really good problem to have. It has to do with this big fiddle leaf fig here. I've had her for years, but she's basically outgrowing my home. She spends most of the year in our family room windows downstairs. So those ceilings down there are 9 feet tall, and she is just barely scraping the ceiling down there. But at Christmas time every year, I have to bring her upstairs to relocate her into our bedroom, which has the same light, south-facing windows, because the Christmas tree goes into her spot for about a month every December. So I need to move her back, but I want to do a few things. I'm finding that I don't like her shape, so I want to prune my fiddle leaf fig. I've never pruned her before, so I want to prune for two different things. I want to prune for size and shape because she's this ridiculous Y shape, and the only way to do that is pruning, and it's more of a marathon process as opposed to a sprint. It's going to take some time. So, and this is another fiddle leaf fig. This is Little Sunshine. Little Sunshine was only supposed to be about 3 to 5 feet tall. Bought her at Menards years ago, and she is approaching, like I said, the 8-foot ceilings here. She is touching the ceiling, and the pot is about 12 inches. So I'd say she's every bit of 7 feet tall now, and I really like her shape. I think she's cool. I'm not going to do anything to her. However, if she does get too big, I'll just pinch the little butt off the top and stop her there. But for right now, we're gonna get after this girl. So first off, let me just talk a little bit about fiddles. I think they have a really bad reputation for being divas, but if you give them what they want and not overthink it and not love them too much, they thrive. And when I bought this at Costco. I probably had it about 4 years. Yeah, I'd say about 4 years. She was much smaller. She was more like, well, maybe this tall. So not super huge, but she's grown significantly since. So I maintain the same type of light for her. Fiddles like a lot of bright light. So she gets a south-facing exposure, very sunny exposure all year long. And in the wintertime, I don't use any type of shading for her because it's a softer sunlight in the winter. In the summertime, when she's downstairs, I can adjust my blinds and really direct that light so it's not as harsh on her, but she thrives. The other thing is making sure your watering is on target. You don't want to overwater it because overwatering oftentimes is the reason why houseplants fail. So I like to let mine dry out completely, not to the point where the soil is receding from the sides of the containers, but I get in there with my hands and really test a couple inches down if they need water. So I'm not going to be skittish about pruning this at all because I prune all my houseplants. Just because it's my first time pruning this one doesn't mean I'm going to go after it and be like, oh gosh, what if I kill it? I have pruned all of my houseplants and the result is a bushier plant. But there are a few things to keep in mind when you're pruning fiddle leaf figs specifically. So, my pothos, my philodendron, all of them are going gangbusters because I treat them all the same. Trim them for shape, they fill in, they get bushier, kind of like when you're pinching back snapdragons in the garden or you're pinching your petunias, they get fuller. So that's what plants do. They branch out, they get bigger, which is what I want to accomplish with my fiddle. So without further ado, I am gonna move her into the downstairs where she won't be bending and I have a little more room to work, and then we'll start pruning and I'll show you the whole process. So I've used some Velcro plant tape just to hold these branches together because it is getting so top heavy, and I want to prevent this from splitting and this branch from breaking away from the main trunk. So that's what I've been using to hold it together. So hopefully by pruning, I won't have to use Velcro plant tape any longer, and it'll form a more pleasing shape. So let's get after it. You don't really need much to prune your plant. You just really need a good sharp pair of pruners. And most importantly, you want to make sure that whatever you use to prune any plant for that matter, is clean pruners. So I like to use rubbing alcohol has been shown to be the most effective for removing any type of bacteria or any types of anything bad that could get into your plant. You could also use bleach wipes, anything like that. Just make sure they're nice and clean before you go and cut one of your plants. So she's back in her rightful space. And before we get to pruning, I want to tell you something a little bit about how you can read your fiddle. These leaves tell me that she's extremely happy because of the distance between each leaf. So if there was a long space between your leaves along the branches and it was looking kind of leggy, that is a pretty good indicator that she's not getting enough light. From these, I'd say I have a leaf happening every 2.5 to 3 inches along the stem. So that tells me the plant is really, really happy. So the lighting is great. Now, if there were a lot of brown spots on the leaves and things were looking bad, that would tell me it's either underwatered or overwatered, and I don't have any of that going on. So I think the recipe for success really is good bright light and infrequent watering. You only want to water any of your houseplants when they actually need it, when they're pretty dry. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about air hitting these plants though, because in my home, I have a smaller home. So there's really nowhere for me to locate my fiddle leaf fig that other than somewhere around a heat or air conditioning register. So this plant is always being hit with hot air or cold air depending on the season, and she does fine. So I think the only thing you want to avoid is putting it near a doorway where she might be getting cold drafts as people are coming in and out. Other than that, I think she's not as much of a diva as people want to believe that she is, as long as you get her light requirement right and her watering requirement right. And that varies from house to house. Everybody's humidity levels and dryness is different, and it changes with the seasons too. So that being said, let me show you where I'm going to cut her. I closed the blinds just because you can see this plant so much better. It's the middle of the day right now, so it's really, really bright. But this is what I'm talking about when I say the distance between the leaves. So you can see here's a plant, here's a node, a leaf node is here. Get a little closer here. This is a leaf node, wherever there's a leaf coming out. Here's a leaf node, obviously you can see that. And then the distance between them is probably 1 inch in this case, maybe 1.5 inches here, and then maybe 2 inches here. So they are really, the leaves are very close together, which means the light is perfect. So I think for this one, I am gonna go and cut this one. You wanna make your cut above a leaf node. So I'm gonna cut right above here on an angle. I'm not gonna cut it flush, I'm gonna cut it on an angle going this way. And then on this branch, let's see, I probably will do, I'm thinking maybe like right here. And you can see on this one too, how close together these branches are. These are about 2 inches apart here. Well, maybe these are about 2.5 inches apart. So nice and happy plant, but I'm gonna cut this one right above here. So it'll be quite a bit smaller, more manageable, and hopefully cutting it that way will trigger it to send out some new stems, and maybe we'll start to fill this area in. I would like to regain some height eventually too, and I mean, it will continue to grow. I just want to get this filled in so I have more of a tree form and not a letter Y. Now the moment of truth. So this is my longer stem. This goes straight up to my 9-foot ceiling, and I think I'm gonna take it down about right here. Actually, I'm gonna cut on an angle directly above a leaf. So that, how many leaves is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm taking off 12 leaves and about 2 feet of stem, which is significantly more than what I see a lot of other people doing, like 6 to 8 inches of stem, but we're gonna see what happens. It's a big experiment. And so I'm gonna take that one down here, cutting it on an angle with my clean, sharp pruners. There's my first cut. It's a nice, sharp angle, and it's starting to drip sap. Really, I should be wearing gloves because this is a form of latex and it is a skinnier tint. You definitely don't want to get this in your eyes, so I should have mentioned that earlier in the video. Probably should be wearing gloves with this. I'm not, but you should, just to be safe. It's better safe than sorry. But that is the cut. And the beauty of pruning is you can make more plants if that's what you want to do. So I don't know that I'll have room for another big fiddle leaf fig in my house, but I can definitely root these and make more for friends. So let's get on to the next cut. And my last cut, I'm going to take it back to a cut just above, gosh, I got pretty tight leaves here. I think I'm going to go just above this node here. So we're just going to cut it on an angle like we did the other one. Done. And then watch how quickly it forms, the sap starts to drip. So you can see it forming here, and it will get really drippy, and you want to make sure that you've got gloves on or something to catch that sap, and you definitely don't want to touch your eyes or your skin because it can really be irritating. So now I'm going to make cuttings out of this, and let me show you what the final product looks like. You can see the sap beginning to drip here, and I am just gonna soak that up. That is completely normal. Just don't wanna get that on my carpet. And that is my last cut. Well, that's quite a difference. It's a lot smaller, and hopefully it'll inspire the plant to branch out and fill in all of this emptiness here. But I also want to take off that Velcro strap that I was using to hold the branches together and see if, after having removed the top heavy portion, it should ease that up a little bit. We'll see what happens. Well, it dropped a bit. I think I like it better with the Velcro strap still on it to hold everything in place, because I like it to have a little bit tidier appearance. So let's see if we can attach this. And the nice thing about it is these Velcro straps don't damage your plants at all. They're very delicate, and they allow them to continue to grow, so you're not going to get any grooves in your trunks. There. So that's better. So now we just hopefully, oh, I've got a bud coming out on this one here, another branch. Nice, that's awesome. I like how that looks. I am just going to continue to treat it as I always do. I'm going to give it another shot of fertilizer, half-strength fertilizer. I use Oregon's Only Medusa's Magic. I also give it a shot of calcium with it. That's part of the product line. I'm not paid for any of that. That's just a product that I like. I like to use it on all of my houseplants. And fertilizing throughout the entire year, you really want to just do that only if you're using an organic fertilizer. They don't burn. Like if you're using a synthetic, synthetics can burn the plant, and I'd rather not risk that. And I really like using that specific product. So organic is the way to go if you're going to feed throughout the growing season. If you're going to feed your plant and you're using a synthetic fertilizer, and you want to do it in the wintertime, I would even cut that down to a quarter strength just to be safe. And you don't really have to fertilize it at all. The thing is, plants are constantly growing, and just because light's diminished doesn't mean that the plant is still not growing. It's just not as actively growing in the wintertime. It still needs food, and it's making food because it's getting the right light, of course. I just prefer to do all year round fertilizing. You don't have to. It's just what I like to do. It works well for my plants. And all right, let me show you how to root the cuttings. Well, this is what I'm left with. And this is I'd say about a foot of stem length. And this is probably 18 inches of stem. I'm not going to root the whole thing. These are way too big for cuttings. Now, I don't necessarily have room for more fiddle leaves in my house, but I can definitely give them away. So the way to do that is by using your cuttings. And you don't want to use the entire length. I'm only going to take about 8 inches of stem on each one and then plop them in some water. And you can use rooting hormone if you want to. You don't have to. Rooting hormone just helps it root faster. So I've got a thing of rooting hormone. I'll show you that as well. But first I'm going to cut these down to a usable size. All right, so this is the longer one, and where are my printers? Hold on a second. I am only going to take about, so here's my tip. There, I am going to take I'm going to cut it back to, let's see, probably about right here, and then I'm going to strip away some of the leaves and plop it in some water. So again, I probably should have gloves on, but I'm going to do an angled cut. Boom, ah. And this is going to drip again. Don't get this on your skin, but you can see it already starting to form on the end there. And then I'm just going to strip away the leaves, pop off really easily. You can cut them off. You could also just root the leaf if you wanted to, but you're not going to get a full plant. You're just going to have a leaf with roots on it. Now what I have here is some rooting powder. You don't have to use it. It's going to root on its own. It might just take a little bit longer. It's not a big deal. But you can just put a little bit in your, probably don't even need that much. Take your cutting and you're just gonna get it in there, cover it in the rooting hormone, and then pop the stem in your jar and put it in a bright window. Done. Let me root the other cutting too. Now this was a shorter stem, and I think I might just cut this off like, and then I'm gonna strip off some of these leaves, like all of these. Rooting hormone, like I said, you don't need it. And now you've got cuttings that should root in a few weeks. Who knows how long it's going to take, but nonetheless, they will root and you'll end up with more plants that, for me, I'm going to give these away because I don't have room for any more fiddles. And I actually got the sap on my hands, so I need to get to that right away. So I'll come back to this in a few weeks and we'll touch base and see where my fiddle leaf fig is. And hopefully over time, I'll achieve that tree form that I want and not the letter Y shape that I have. I'll have a stronger tree altogether with a lot more branches, a lot more leaves. So the takeaway from this, if you're thinking about even growing a fiddle leaf fig, let alone pruning it, maybe sometime down the road, but I want to dispel this myth that fiddle leaf figs are super hard to take care of. I think it has everything to do with consistency in location. So it's getting the same amount of sunlight all the time, and location in your house, so it's not exposed to a drafty door. But like I said, a lot of people say you shouldn't have these near heating and cooling registers. That's where mine are, and they do just fine. And watering is key. Too much or too little is really going to stress these plants out. So let them get dry, and you can apply that same thing to all of your house plants. Let them dry out, not to the point where the soil is receding from the side of the container, but get in there with your hands and really check it. And if you don't like to get dirty, you can always go buy a soil meter, and it's like a probe that goes into your soil, much like a thermometer might, and tells you exactly how dry or how wet your soil is, and you can do that. So lighting, location, and water, and if you can keep those things consistent and not overlove your fiddle, you're gonna do great with it. So hopefully in several weeks, I don't know when these are gonna root out, but several weeks I'll have rooted cuttings that I can pot up and give away because I don't have any room for giant fiddle leaf figs in the rest of my house. These will be fun to give away. So thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you'll experiment with fiddle leaf figs, not be too afraid of them. And if it goes south, it goes south. It's all part of the learning process. So anyway, with that, I will put a link to the rooting hormone. You don't really need it, but you can use it if you want to. They're going to root in water anyway. Put these cuttings in bright light and wish them well and see what happens. So thanks for watching, guys. I will catch you in the next one. And if you like the video, please throw up a like. Subscribe would be awesome. And if you hit that bell, you'll always be alerted to when I post a new video. I'm uploading every Friday, so be on the lookout for those videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching. And before I forget, I gotta go wash my hands before I touch my face or something and have some ridiculous rash. That's what happens. Make sure when you're working with fiddles, maybe wear some gloves just to make sure you don't have any skin issues. All right, see ya.